everyone. Welcome to another episode of My Tech Story, the first ever episode that we are actually having with our guest. So our first guest for the podcast. Thank you so much for gracing this podcast. My name is Alice Kanjejo, your host for this podcast, and I think we can get straight into the intro because this guy is a ball of knowledge as much as someone who is going to be vibes for this podcast. So let me just do a quick intro. So my lovely guest is Dominic Mulinda. He is a tech entrepreneur with a wealth of experience, currently serving as the head of product or chief product officer of an up-and-coming startup, HoneyCoin, which is also where I work. He has a track record of leading companies to success. They've been instrumental in the growth of HoneyCoin, overseeing its expansion to over 100K plus users. Before this, he co-founded a software development shop in Nairobi, where he served again as a chief product officer. So he's a very product-savvy guy. During his time there, he built and deployed over 9 products across 3 different continents. Come on, are you guys listening to this intro? It's someone powerful, you know? He's 9 products across 3 different continents, serving hundreds and thousands of users. With a keen eye of innovation and a dedication to excellence, this lovely entrepreneur has proven himself to be a valuable asset to any team that he's a part of. Ladies and gents, please welcome Dominic Mulinda.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's such a wow.
It's a powerful intro.
It's a jesty intro. I don't even know how I can live up to it.
No, you don't have to live up to it. We talked about things you already have lived up to.
Actually,
so that's what I really like about doing such intros is that you get to realize, wow, these are the accomplishments that you've done within a short summary of what your current CV looks like. Oh, wow. So it's powerful because you're a powerful person, Dom.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. I feel powerful already.
Welcome to the first episode of the podcast. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to, be the kind of, I don't know, you like calling it guinea pig. I don't know if that's the right word to use for this.
Somebody has to go and pave the way,
Yes, thank you for trusting me to, have you share your tech story and be part of this movement. So very happy to be here with you. Yeah. Dominic, where do we begin?
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for having me. Let's take it away, man.
Let's take it away, man. Yeah. So you are the chief product officer, currently working at HoneyCoin, but it seems you have a very long experience with product. So tell us where the journey started. What's your tech story?
So the question is like where my tech story started. And that's really a hard one. That's really a hard one to kind of answer. But the place I can really pinpoint where everything began was probably in my uni days. So just a little bit of my background. I majored in actuarial science. I'm just in a university here in Nairobi. Wow. So a lot of math. I thought I was going to end up like doing some insurance stuff somewhere in some company, building like insurance products and a lot of actuarial math to estimate like when are you most likely going to die, so that I give you like the best product and give you like the best premium.
Wow.
So that was like 4 years of university. I was always like, I really always enjoyed math. So I figured I was probably gonna end up doing something like that.
Math related. I hated math, first of all. Let me just interject and say English, ladies and gents, was always my stronghold.
Oh my word.
So it's no surprise I ended up with a podcast.
I find, even to this day, I still find math very intuitive. Like, once you know what it does, it's like an algorithm, It's set in its ways and it's easy to confirm it or not. Pretty much. But something like history, something that needs a lot of, rational thinking. I found that to be like so hard.
Difficult.
Just lore and everything around that. But the funny thing is actually post-uni is when I actually became really interested in things that allow me to like really, really employ a lot of reason. Even the books I started reading, like heavily philosophical, but anyway, I digress. So, so math. I started with majored in actuarial science. And I remember in my 4th year, I interned in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I was, fun fact, part of the team that built out a product called Emma Kiba. Okay, I didn't build it out really, but I was one of like the uni ambassadors trying to see how that product could get adopted by a lot of university students to like save and begins, like the journey in investments. And very quickly, I kind of picked the intuition that, hey, I wanted to be like more involved and build things that I felt like had a more direct impact. So in my final year of university, I think, which was like my most hectic year, I was so convinced like that my university project was going to end up as a huge startup, but I didn't know how to code. So what did I do? so I was like, hey, I need to learn how to code or cut this journey short and like find someone who can code and walk along with, just convince them that, hey, let's build something big, something great. And that's what I did. So I literally just walked into like the school's innovation lab. And the funniest thing is, a friend of mine, more like an acquaintance at the time, who was actually interning in the innovation lab in school and was a computer science major, was there. And I didn't know anyone. And I was like, hey, how do I get started in this program? And I have this product I want to build. And I don't know any coder. Can you build it with me? And he was like, okay, like I'm not doing a lot. Let's do it. And so we fiddled with the idea for like a month before we realized, it's not making a lot of sense,
What wasn't making sense about the product?
So the product was supposed to help folks meet their rent payments easily. So it's kind of like based off like a lot of actuarial math called annuities. So the idea here was, how can we help folks begin to store up value for money and offset like 1 or 2 months of rent in a year because of like either overpaying by stroke investing early their monthly rental payment. So think of it as whatever my monthly payment is, just doing like 1.35x of that. And then like the 0.35, just storing it up over a period of time. And then you find yourself like having some leeway not to think about rent. So that was kind of the idea. But on the ground, things really looked really different. But now the funny story is we were heading home. I used to live next to my then co-founder of the idea. And the cool thing was that he was already doing some stuff on the side. He was building websites. He was doing stuff for clients while in uni. And I always found that to be like extremely interesting. Like you're making money while in university, while we're all out here hustling and everything.
And so something going on with him.
Well, I remember one day we were going home and we needed to do like a supermarket errand. And he was like, yo, dude, just thinking about the queue that I have to go and do in the supermarket is draining me of strength. And he was like, I wish we could like build an app and just, shop and just go pick it up. So essentially like Glovo before Glovo even hit this market. So we built an app called Pigeon.
What year was this, first of all? Like, what year is this that you guys initiated?
I think that was
Pigeon?
like 2018. Almost at the end of 2018. That's when I finished uni. I graduated in December of 2018. I think I'm old or young, depending on, depending on who's it. Like 5 years. 5 years ago. 5 years ago, yeah.
First of all, I feel like you've accomplished a lot for 5 years post-uni. So congratulations on that. And I think you will get more into it and see exactly what I mean as you keep going along with your story.
So that day in the matatu ride back home, that's when we changed our idea from the rent product to Pigeon. Essentially, we started calling it Quicklane at the time. Fun story. We started building it out, and then we noticed if you're in Kenya, there's a supermarket called Quickmart, so we couldn't use Quicklane. And so we were like, let's call it Pigeon. But why Pigeon? So we used to have this cool thing in uni where lecturers, you'd leave like your assignments in a pigeonhole, and then guys would just pick up like the lecturers would come and pick up your assignments from there. So the idea here was, hey, can we build out like a pickup model for groceries and pretty much shopping, so that you don't have to go into the into the supermarket or the grocery store, but just pick it up, or like think of it as reinventing the luggage area of a supermarket. So that was like the whole idea. And we're like, we're gonna close out so many supermarkets in 6 months once we have this product out.
This
and I was like,
hey, Mark
Zuckerberg, this is the year we're gonna scale into millions of users in the first year. I was so convinced like, hey, this was gonna work. But the long story short is we built it out, and that was fun. We finished school, and that's when we started grappling with the realities of life, as it were. So we were heavily bootstrapped. We did have like a bunch of savings that we did like through uni that we felt like would last us over a year. But that year being on the ground and just building it out was, let me just say, we learned a lot. Like solutions are not like cookie cutters. You know, you don't just have like a cut and paste template that you can just apply to the market and it works. So the first hurdle we got was, not being able to close partnerships with supermarkets. That was really hard. You'd go and present your idea and supermarkets would be like, hey, you get a bit too small, like come back when you have a bunch of users. But then it's like a chicken and egg problem.
Also showing that you
need
don't
the
have
partnership. So
experience, so they doubt you.
But really the biggest issue was you want to gain users to have the service of having pickups, but you don't get supermarkets who want to do pickups. So what do you do? So we ended up building a whole inventory inside the app. So we go to the supermarkets, take photos of products for like weeks on end, and we build out the whole supermarket catalog. To this day, I still remember some of the prices.
And then add the catalog on the app. And then what would you do? Like, would you now go pick those things from the supermarket?
That's the more.
So now you guys become the delivery people.
No, that's the more interesting bit. So we built out like a back end flow, where whenever you're fulfilling a shopping order, first of all, we weren't able to do the pickups initially. So we decided, okay, let's do deliveries. And then we targeted a couple of neighborhoods in Nairobi. We started with the neighborhood that we stay. And then our idea was to scale into like a bunch of neighborhoods that we think would have like communities where we can easily get like our first 100 users, our first 200 users, etc. But then the fundamental business model had to change completely. It had to become now a delivery business. So that meant as well looking for riders. Getting partnerships with the riders, negotiating on commissions, etc.
Isn't that interesting? I think what's interesting is whenever I talk to people who have been founders or scaled their own product, the product always ends up 90% of the time not what it initially was supposed to be.
100%. I'd say that's true for almost every product that I know of. Even the ones that I've studied to be successes, they all never look
they kind of shape up their own way of doing things.
It's pretty much about responding to what you find on the ground. The guys who win, the guys who survive, the guys who thrive are the people who are able to
quickly modify
iterate. And that was like one of the things that I think all credit to that period of time, we were able to effectively respond to what we were getting in the market. And the whole fundamental idea about pickups that we had needed like a bunch of baby steps to get to. But then now the biggest issue we had at the time is that we were bootstrapped. We were not making enough from the margins we were getting between sharing with delivery riders. At some point, we even decided to be our own delivery guys. So, you're handling orders and then you get a call. We used to ride bicycles, by the way. We bought bicycles. God. We didn't not even a motorbike, bicycles. You
were riding bicycles.
So it was so much fun. But it was really cool. I think about those days really, really fondly because I think those were the days I got the most amount of insight about our product and what it really fit in. Because now we do the shopping ourselves, handle the orders. When we do the delivery, ask for people's feedback. What did you like about the product? What can we make better? And everyone always picked up you're not a rider, you're not a delivery guy. And it was always fun to shock people that, hey, I'm actually one of the guys who built this up. So I really want to know how it worked for you. And that made us really embedded in the communities that we're serving. We got our first 100 users in less than 2 months. Wow. And that was exciting. But the business wasn't profitable because of the margins. And eventually what happened was we had a little bit of a silver lining happening, which was we got some guys who checked out the build quality of our app and they were so interested, but they had a different idea. And they were like, hey, can you guys build me an app such as this? And I'll pay you guys whatever you give us in your contract. And that year, we literally took it up because we needed the money.
Yes.
And we were broke and we were like, okay, we'll build it in 3 months. Yes. We built it in a month. That's how bad we needed to make bank so money. Fast. And at the end of that year, we just took a toll of what we had. And because of the nature of the business being bootstrapped, we were like, hey, we made so much more money doing this contract. Why don't we pivot the whole business and make it a dev shop agency? And that's how we began essentially 2020. And that was crazy. Like that one decision to pivot the entire business literally saved us. We really scaled. That's now how we ended up beginning to do contracts for people abroad. We built products for guys in the UK. We built products for guys in the US.
So this small idea in uni,
just
ended
kind
up
of
being
like it became a dev agency in essence, and it was such a fun ride. We learned a lot. I'd say there's a lot of insights and lessons you learn in the trenches when you are building with a lot of scarcity.
Could you give me examples of maybe companies not companies but countries that you ended up building for, like
or
the
I remember
type
very
of
fondly.
product you helped.
We built a product in edtech, and we also built a product. Let me focus on a product we did for logistics in Texas, like pretty much helping folks. There are a lot of like long haul freight drivers, truck drivers, like moving loads from different states, pretty much essentially. So what we did is we partnered with a company in the US to build them like internal tooling for how to manage truck drivers efficiently, get them paid on every load that they do, integrated with a lot of the payment gateways that were native to the US. And that was like it was a very, very hands-on project. It was our first big project. And it was, it literally shaped how we think and how we think about products, and just the power of tech for me, like how much, just the barriers that we were able to break. We're serving guys in a completely new market.
You're able to build solutions.
Exactly. We're building solutions for people we haven't met in person, and we haven't even been, we haven't been there.
And I think that's the beautiful part of tech,
that exposed us. So we started looking for partnerships with Polish dev houses, like guys who are doing contracts for clients in the UK, and maybe their workload is too much and they need other dev shops like in Africa or wherever, India. Like we would compete with like a bunch of dev agencies like across like all over the globe to like build out products. And that was like, I'd say, extremely eye-opening.
And you also get like to interact with different products.
Interacting with different products, different people, and a lot of learning, to be honest. Like, it gives you a certain thirst, because when you start doing these things, you realize how much you do not know. And so I think we were discussing
this before the podcast began. You were trying to explain the Kruger effect, where I think you can tell our audience once again about
so that was like one of the
knowing
biggest,
what you don't know.
That's like one of the biggest, I think, biases personally for me. So the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is one of the big insights I really gained from that period of time, when I was, building products there, is pretty much a bias that we have in ourselves, of just either being overconfident about like what we can do and what we don't know about what we do. So we easily overestimate our capabilities to execute something. Now, that is something that I firsthand made my team go through so many times.
Yeah, because you have a bias thinking that you know exactly what you need to do for it.
So you have one small win, building a small app that serves like a community here,
and you think
in Kruger. Now you think, I can build anything anywhere. And now I'm like, hey, telling guys, I can build this in 3 months. Come on, I can do it. But you do not know what you do not know. And so Dunning-Kruger really emphasizes that you technically have to get over amount called Mount Stupid, which is figuring out the things that you do not know, and tapering off to a place where now you have enough experience to build something that's laser focused and actually solve. And so the idea here being, yes, you can still be overconfident, but you have to always hold it's almost like having, it's almost like holding contending ideas in your head at the same time. The fact that you still don't know what you do not know. And so you want to get those learnings in as fast as you can. Make all the experimentations and the mistakes that you can really early on, so that you pick up the lessons and have now the benefit of hindsight and enough mistakes to be able to iterate faster and make the thing that actually makes sense.
I love that. And actually just having that. What was I even going to say? No, but I love the analogy of really having the willingness to know that, okay, I may not know this. So let's identify what possibly could be possible weakness that you may have, because naturally as humans we really think that I'm the shit, like I'm the person who knows how to do this thing, and just having the willingness to know that you don't have everything you know, even when you think you do, even the big people, even people who are CEOs, people who are founders, there's still so much more. And I think learning is continuous. Learning is something that even if you're 60, 70, 80 years old, I think there's something new to learn every day that only.
And I think the goal here is trying to understand that you don't need to know everything. You just need to know all the critical things that the critical mistakes that you cannot make, the things that would mean death for you, you know?
Yeah.
And so that, I think, easily segues into like even getting into HoneyCoin.
Tell us about that.
So HoneyCoin was a very different experience for me. I remember meeting our founder, like, you know, like we go way back. We go to the same church. So we were friends already, like from where we used to be. And we'd just have like weekly conversations about this product that he's building. I thought it was pretty cool. And I'd like, hey, I'd drop in a couple of insights every week. And he was like, hey, yo, dude, why don't you like, you know, just come in full time, like, and help me figure this thing out.
How far along was it when HoneyCoin
he'd raised like some, I mean, like sizable funding for the product, but then we were still figuring out the initial, like, what is the product gonna be? And that was the fun bit of me. Like that was the fun bit for me. If I'm in a space where I feel like I'm consistently learning, and it's not like a typical experience, I love that stress. And so HoneyCoin was a creator product, or was it like a payments product, or was it a payment aggregation product? Now, that for me as well was like a whole new sector, as well, just kind of learning about crypto and everything in between. I loved that whole experience because I felt like it put me in a place where I had to read up a lot in a very short period of time to at least gain some understanding to build something meaningful in that space.
I think people always say that if you're not learning from what you're doing, then you're not doing what you're meant to be doing.
Exactly. Like
if you're the smartest person in the room, if you're the most intelligent, there's no room for growth. That stagnant nature of being in such a job, you're probably not where you're supposed to be.
And you feel it. And you feel it like it's part of your intuition.
You hate the process, but you also, when you're not in that process, you're like, there's nothing I'm adding value here, and we're way too young to not be adding value anywhere.
Exactly.
Honestly.
And so that's how I ended up in HoneyCoin. The first days, the early days were really much an aspect of like figuring out what exactly it is that this company needs to be, or this product needs to be, and who is it delivering value from. Now, the biggest insight that I learned, I joined when, was it like at 5K to 10K users, I think, and most of them were Nigerians. So that was like very interesting. Like it was a very interesting insight to learn what their market needs. Like what do these users want? And working with David, like to begin doing the bare bones of iterating the product and also going through the whole hiring process, and also the expectations of being a venture-backed company as well. That was a completely different ball game from the kind of setup that I had before. The previous business I had was bootstrapped, and then eventually to just cash flow positive.
Now you're learning how to be in the VC funding
exactly.
side of things.
So, and the growth expectations for a venture-backed startup are extremely different from like a bootstrap company. Now, for a bootstrap company, you have the luxury of time. As long as you are surviving, you can take your time to figure out what the product is. But for a venture-backed company, growth is everything.
Goals, you need deadlines.
And not just goals. Like I think most businesses have goals, but I think if it's venture-backed, like the goals are almost always tending towards the audacious side of things, you know. So you have like, hey, we need to do 50K new users month over month. And your question here becomes, how do I get from point A to point B in figuring out how to get in that acquisition, like you know?
Yes.
So that's, I think for me.
And still maintain the fact that you're trying to provide solutions for people. Exactly. Because I think sometimes you can get so engrossed into the money side of things and forget that why you were studying this in the first place was to provide solutions for people. Which I think is a very big problem that a lot of founders experience, is that if you don't take time to look back, you can really get lost in the numbers. And that's where the failure begins, because you're not thinking about the solution you're providing.
Agreed. In fact, I think that's a very good framing for me to explain how I understand product to be. Product for me is the intersection between technology and business. Now, the real kicker here is most engineers will build. Most engineers are very comfortable building in their cool standing desk setup at home with their gaming monitors and stuff like that, and just spend like 5 hours writing code uninterrupted. They love that depth and the solitude that comes with, depth. But it takes a humility as well to always be seeking out who's on the other end of this product that I'm building and what are they saying about it. And then also figuring out the business angle of it is one of the key, I'd say it's one of the key learnings and the key intuitions that you need to build out as a product lead in any company that you're in. So at the end of the day, every app, every tool you're building is a business. So it really goes back down to the fundamentals of the business. What value are you providing and who are you providing it to? And you have to listen to the guys who you're serving. You have to listen to the people who are on the other end of, of your product. And that ability to stay grounded and stay in touch with knowledge on the ground is literally what breaks or makes great products, because that's what will inform how you iterate. I have a really grounding analogy that I love to share that always reminds me. It's about Hercules when he was doing his trials. Yeah, one of the heroes he had to fight was Antaeus. Antaeus was...
Can you provide context? Okay, but is it going to make sense at the
end?
Yeah,
it does. So Antaeus was the son of Mother Gaia. Mother Gaia was like earth, and Antaeus gained his strength from the ground. So anyone who fought Antaeus always lost. And one of Hercules' trials was to beat Antaeus. And the only way, after Hercules trying to beat Antaeus, that he was able to overcome him was by lifting him up. And the moment he'd lift him up and sever his connection from the ground, that's when he was vulnerable to attacks. And that formed a very grounding principle for me, even in any business and in any product that you're building. The moment you begin to lose touch with the other side, the voices on the ground, which are the people who you're serving, that's when you become vulnerable to attack. That's when competitors come in and eat your breakfast. That's when you begin to lose pretty much the very edge that was making you something that's valuable to people. So to always be in that place of value, you have to intersect your technology with the business angle, and which is pretty much what value you're providing to people. So those are my insights, I think, around product, how I think about product. And it's a learning journey. At the end of the day, I think it boils down to that. I think
let's go back to the basics and just tell us, first of all, what does a product lead do? Yes. And what does your job entail? I know you said it was a connection between the business side of things and the technology of it, but what does that actually mean on the ground? Yeah, so
there are different levels in how you can execute your product role. At the basis of it is, think of it as ensuring the right amount of productivity in your team. So what that looks like is in a technology-based company, you'll probably be coordinating all the efforts and tasks around your designers, your engineers, and how they're building, how they're speccing out features that you want to drop in your application, and how that is executed all the way out. Now, in most cases, you'll be handling all the stakeholders involved, including the partnerships that are prerequisite for a particular feature to be built. Sometimes you're building things that have external dependencies. They need APIs from application programming interfaces from from other companies. So that means you need to manage that stakeholder relationship that works with that. Your leadership as well. Maybe your senior leader or someone else in your team has a vision for a product that it needs to be like this. You need to translate that down to what does that look like for my engineers to do and for my designers to do. Coordinate that effort in a way that you are meeting the timelines that you need to be able to execute this in good time. And at the tail end of it as well, there's the whole going to market. How are you going to make noise around this? How are you going to let people learn about this, because you're not building this in a room. You want to build it as fast as you can so that you tell people, this is what value it's bringing to you, and get that feedback in, and then now begin iterating.
So also manage the relationship with the product marketing.
Exactly. So the marketing, who are the people communicating, passing this message back out to the people? What are they telling them? And eventually all that feeds back. It's like a continuous loop where you get data on how people are responding to whatever you've built, and figuring out, people are not converting here. These are, at the end of it all, like, the bottom line needs to be, how am I making things better, easier? I feel like it's a huge platitude to say easier. Everyone wants to make something easier, but how am I making better decisions on improving a particular thing, or bringing new things into the market? So this can be like an entirely new product, or it can be improvements on a particular product, or introducing new features that could be pivotal to the direction of a product. So that's a product lead. The higher you go, the more strategic it becomes. Now where you're thinking maybe, I'd say like half a year to a year's on end, on like, where do we want to go? What are the strategic directions that we can take? How are competitors responding to stuff? And what are like the big gaps of that are maybe close to like what we're building that we could explore? How would we angle like a business direction off of our product with the existing one, to capture, let's say, this other segment of the market? So on a strategic level, the higher you go, the more abstract it becomes, and more strategic. But then at the end of it all, it has to funnel down. It still has to funnel all the way down to its execution. And as a product lead, you are primarily responsible for the execution of your team. And if people fail at it, the buck starts and stops with you. And it's a bit stressful, to be honest, like people management. But I also believe
they don't teach you this.
They don't teach you this in school.
Actuarial science.
Yeah, they don't. For sure, they don't. I mean, if people were like math, would have been, like maybe AI. But I mean, if people were programmable, it would have been easy. But then again, people are like the most valuable asset as well that you
people
have.
The most valuable
it's better
assets.
To build the right
relationships,
team.
Because the right partnerships, the right relationships, even if things don't work out, they will help you find the solutions that you're looking for at the same time. You know
what they say? It's better to build the right team than the right product. Because the right team can build any product, but the wrong team cannot build the right product. So at the end of the day, people are the most valuable asset you have, and how you bring it together is everything. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just have a couple of closing questions to ask you, but I think the first one I'm going to ask you is, for you personally, what does success look like for you? Like, what do you think you'll reach a point where you'll say, wow, this for me? Because I feel like success is an individualistic metric in as much as this is the generic one. But for you, in your tech journey, in your tech story, what does it end with in a successful manner?
So I think for me, success looks like the impact that I've had. So I question it my key metric is, what valuable thing that's impacted other people outside of myself have I been involved with, have I been a part of, or have I brought forth? And so it's kind of hard to quantify, but it's also not so hard to quantify if you kind of build something that's really, really good. And I think of products ultimately as things that bring in value and impact lives in a tangible way. And so I wouldn't build a product. I personally wouldn't be like a part of a product that I feel is very shallow and doesn't.
Just for the money.
Yeah, just for the money. And even the funny thing is that the money follows impact. Money follows value. So at the end of the day, it kind of goes back down to, I think the success metric for me is, how many people outside of myself have I impacted with like what I have built? And that's a huge North Star for me, like in just saying, wow, I think this is successful or not.
You know what, with that metric that you've put for yourself as success, I think in some ways you already are. In many ways, you already are successful, given the amount of product you've already built, the impact those products have already had in the market, the impact we're already having at HoneyCoin, the impact that you've had even from the first product that you built that ended up in your the dev
In the dev shop.
the dev shop.
Yeah.
So yes, I just want you to know that definitely, even from the intro, that success is definitely something that you already have achieved, and you are still going to achieve as you grow older into your career. Another thing that I really like about you and this conversation as well is that it's with people who are young, and that's what I also really like about the tech industry. It's very accepting and of young people. It's not very choosing, or at least from what my experience, at least even our team, like you don't have to be 30 to be the one now to be like now I'm the top guy. Like just do your product, do the marketing that needs to be done, and I'm very happy that you've accomplished, at least for you, that you've accomplished this much in this journey of yours. And keep doing what you're doing. And this is, I'm telling you also as my friend, that I'm very proud of the accomplishments that you've done so far.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just going to end with 4 questions now.
Quick fire?
And quick fire-ish. Okay. Very short, sweet, simple. We're going to be ending this with all our guests. So the next guest who is in the room. You prep your answers.
Get ready for your quick fire.
For your quick fire. The first one, what is one word to describe the journey to get to where you are today, and why?
One word to describe. I'd say grit.
Grit.
Yeah.
Why?
That's that unwavering commitment to just persist on something and know that something will have to give, and you will figure out like the way. Because there are so many opportunities to give up on, I think, what I started on. But and also, people as well. I think grit and people are kind of together, because it really did take like a lot of camaraderie in everything that I've been a part of. Like to have like a team that guys are not giving up, and we're like, okay, it's bad, but
moving.
But we move. Today we survived, so we just need to survive tomorrow as well, and the day after. And so it's grit and people. I think I'd say, okay, those are 2 words, but
it's
I hope I've gotten away
2
with
words
it.
will do.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that. Okay, what advice would you give to someone who is aspiring to get to where you are today?
Don't boil the ocean. Don't try to know everything.
Don't boil the ocean.
Yeah.
First of all, one thing about Dominic, he always has this weird sayings that I'm shocked he's not dropped throughout this episode. Because who even says that? But anyway, I'm sure it's valuable. Okay.
I'm the Gen Z office boomer.
He's the Gen Z office boomer for sure.
But don't try to know everything you need to know before you start. Just start and try to learn as fast as you can. So in anything really, if you want to start a new business, especially if you're young, I'd actually say it should be a rite of passage. Every young person needs to start a business. Either fail or learn and, keep moving.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really good advice. Don't try and do everything.
Yeah.
Learn
Don't try
as you
to
go.
know everything to start. Just start.
Start.
And figure it out.
That's what we're hoping for this podcast, guys. Please support.
Subscribe.
Actually, I didn't even tell
button.
you guys to subscribe. That's how you guys know that this is for the stories and not for
it's not
the
for the cloud.
It's not for the cloud. Okay, the last 2 questions. Do you have any regrets or anything that you wish you would have done better or differently?
Yeah. With the benefit of hindsight, I'd say I just wish I started sooner.
Sooner, Dominic, you started in uni.
No, to be honest, like I really wish I could. The thing is, starting earlier for me would have meant I'd have a much bigger safety net for me to even do more audacious things with what I knew at that time. So I'd have made more, more audacious experiments, like much bigger failings.
Wow.
And just being being confident enough to be like, hey, just try. Even if it fails, you're good. You're still in uni.
This ties into your second point of just survive. Starting without knowing everything.
So starting sooner for me is always but I think everyone gets to say that, to be honest, with hindsight in mind.
You never think you did anything on time.
So I'm not too harsh on myself as well.
Okay, I think the last thing I have to say is, or the last question, give us a powerful parting shot.
Oh. When you ask for a powerful partnership, it doesn't come.
It doesn't come. I know,
But,
pressure. But just anything that comes to your mind. What do you think you want to close off your episode saying?
I'd say, I think my parting shot would be value people and value the daily. The effort really, the only thing you can steward is the daily. So steward it well. Do the right thing and it compounds. So steward the daily, value people, and do something outside your comfort zone.
I love that. That is a very good, powerful ending parting shot. Thank you so much, Dominic, for being a guest on this podcast.
Wow.
I think you've dropped so many gems, and I'm so happy this is the first episode. I think it's a very powerful one. And
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your tech story with my audience. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode,
Thank you.
Make sure you give a like, subscribe so that it would really help us grow this podcast, get it to the right audiences, and let people know more about the tech story, especially the African tech story, because there's so much happening, there's so much building happening in Africa, there's so much potential in growth, and so many products to share within the tech space and beyond the tech space.
Yeah.
So like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and wow, I really enjoyed this episode. And yes, without further ado, my name is Alice Kanjejo. I have been your host, and I will see you guys in the next episode where we shall be having a lovely engineer come and tell us his tech story. Now, we had from the product guy. Now, we also need to talk from the counter of the side of things.
It's not really counter.
It's not the counter, but the
complementary.
the complementary.
We work together.
I'll see you guys next week. So, awesome.
Cheers.